and I am an expecting mother, but I'm also a soldier and leader in the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Today I want to talk to you about pregnancy, postpartum, and parenthood in the Army, and specifically the Wisconsin Army National Guard. I think that this is a topic that isn't super well known about. Honestly, when I started telling family that I was pregnant, a lot of them were like assuming that I had to get out of the military entirely. And even within the military, I feel like there's just a lot of unknowns and there's not a lot of shared knowledge on the subject within the military. So I want to kind of put it all out there today. I kind of want to just inform you guys of what is out there for female soldiers and kind of how you can continue your career even with pregnancy, parenthood, and postpartum. So, real quick caveat, a lot of this is going to be Army-wide. Some of it is specific to the Wisconsin Army National Guard because Wisconsin actually has some really great leaders who were spearheads for creating P3 policies. So it's really cool to be a part of that organization that has really taken the front on that. But because of our spearheading, we might have different guidelines or more advanced guidelines in the Wisconsin Army National Guard than Army-wide or other state guards. Typically, I would say that the more stringent guideline is the one that you're going to follow, and we'll kind of get into that later. Just a quick little caveat for all of this. I am going to be focusing primarily on an uncomplicated pregnancy, very basic, just like the most basic pregnancy you can get, uncomplicated. No infertility or any kind of like IVF treatments or anything like that. Those are all included in the policies and everything, and like you can definitely go through all that. But for the purpose of this video, I will be talking primarily about uncomplicated, just regular bare bones pregnancy. You do not have to get out of the military if you are pregnant. However, it is an option. How the process is going to begin is you're going to take that at-home test, you're going to schedule a visit with your doctor, whether it's for an early blood test or if it's late enough, you could go right for your ultrasound. So from that appointment, you're going to want to make sure that you get some sort of confirmation from the doctor saying, yes, this person is pregnant. And then if you can get an estimated due date right away, that's going to help things with the profile. But if you're going in earlier, just for like a blood test, like you know right away, like I knew right away, so I went in at like 7 weeks and got my blood test, and I didn't have my ultrasound until 12 weeks. So, but you will need a letter with your estimated due date later on for your profile. So once you have that documentation saying, yes, she is pregnant, you are supposed to tell your command team right away. The Wisconsin Army National Guard policy memo states, soldier requirements. Soldiers who are pregnant or believe they are pregnant will notify their command immediately. Confirmation of pregnancy by a physician is required in writing to receive a pregnancy profile and applicable P3 considerations. So, I mean, you can wait as long as you want, but none of the P3, like, regulations or anything like that are going to apply to you until you have that set in place. So once you have that documentation, you bring it into your command team and you're going to get an initial counseling. So this initial counseling is just kind of establishing, yes, this person is pregnant, and then you're also, with that counseling, you're going to be set up with a nurse case manager. So you will be case managed, but obviously it's for pregnancy. And then that nurse case manager is going to start your profile for you. Then there is a second counseling, and that's where you're going to pick your option for service. So there's 3 options. Number 1, you can get out completely, but that means you would lose TRICARE. Option number 2, you can go inactive National Guard. You're also not eligible for TRICARE on that. And then third option is you can stay in. So if you're relying on TRICARE for the care of your pregnancy and your baby, the first 2 options are probably not going to be ideal for you, but it's really going to be situationally dependent, and you can utilize those options. Now, what I would say is, if you are planning on using TRICARE throughout your pregnancy and then you want to get out after the baby is born, it's going to be harder to do, but not impossible. It just has to be under different circumstances. It's a lot easier to get out with this original counseling for pregnancy. So if that's your plan, I would maybe factor that in. It might just be more hoops to jump through later on. Okay, so let's talk about some restrictions. We have some things that you can do, and there's some things that you will not do. Will not, hard stop, don't do. So things that you can do. I'm going to read these from the list so I don't mess it up. Okay. You can attend drills and annual training. You can work up to 8 hours a day if necessary. That rule applies to drill, not to AGR full-time Guard soldiers. You can be encouraged to conduct physical training at your own pace with physician's guidance. You can rest whenever needed, and you can go to the field with the following stipulations. You must have access to a daily shower and restrooms. You must sleep in a bed in a temperature-controlled environment. Bed also includes a cot, just so we're aware. And must have minimal exposure to stress, which is completely dependent upon the situation and the soldier. Hard stop things that you will not do. Stand in a formation longer than 15 minutes. Ride in a military vehicle. Wear load-bearing equipment to include an LBV, IBA, any kind of body armor. Have excessive lead exposure, aka weapons handling, being in a weapons vault, stuff like that. Conduct or be present at weapons qualification, except you can work the tower, but you're not working the ammo shack, you're not on the range, you're not an RSO, you're just in the tower, or you're not there at all. Okay. So in addition to that, your nurse case manager might give you additional restrictions on your profile. Even if it says like you can do certain things on your profile, if that is less stringent than the PM 128, the policy on P3, whichever one's more strict is the one that you're going to be following. So some other things that you are not going to be doing while pregnant or for 365 days after the date of delivery, which includes date of loss if you, for some reason, experience perinatal loss. So you will not be required to take an ACFT, and you will not be required to go through height and weight or meet those height and weight standards. Quick little caveat, if you were on the ABCP prior to getting pregnant, like more than 90 days prior to finding out you were pregnant, then you will stay in the ABCP program, and then after 365 days after your pregnancy, you would restart the ABCP program, and then they would assess your progress from there. On to some planning. So something that's really important with pregnancy is being on the same page and communicating with your leadership, right? There's a lot of things that you physically can or cannot do, and there's a lot of things that you're going to want to do or your unit isn't going to realize that you're not able to do because they're probably not as familiar with these restrictions as you are. So one of the big things that you're supposed to do is create a P3 plan, and this just kind of outlines like what kind of leave you'll be using or what kind of restrictions you'll be under for the drill dates, or if you're full-time, you know, whatever period of time you're working in. So I have like an example that I'll show here, and basically just outlines like the kind of leave that I'm going to be using at what points, and then like what kind of restrictions I would have during those time frames. Basically, if you're M day, it's going to be like using your STAs during specific UDAs, or if you're full-time, it's going to be the type of leave that you're using immediately following the birth of your child. While we're on the topic of leave, if you are full-time, whether it be AGR, OTOT, or FTNGD, you're getting 126 days total as a mother. So for convalescent leave, which is basically your recovery period immediately following discharge from the hospital, that's going to be 42 days. And that's discharge of mom from the hospital, not necessarily the baby. So if baby has to go to the NICU, yes, it's hard, but you're not counting the duration of time until baby gets discharged. It's mom's recovery period is that 42 days, 6 weeks. So as soon as mom gets discharged, 42 days, and then parental leave is going to be 84 days on top of that 42. For moms, you have to take that immediately, all consecutive after the birth of the child. Dads or non-birth parents are going to get 84 days. They can break it up however they want over the course of those 12 months following the baby's birth. If you are M-Day, which is a traditional drilling status for National Guard, you are going to get a total of 22 UTAs, or UDAs, excused. There's just different codes for them, and then different like time frames that you have to use them in. So first up is 6 UDAs, unpaid, excused, or STA, and that's your convalescent leave. So essentially that is the part-time version of that 42 days that a full-time person would get. So hopefully you're getting out of whatever drill is immediately following the birth of your child. And that should give you a month at least, right? A month and a half probably. Then you're getting 12 UDAs, paid, excused, and those need to be used within the first 12 months after the birth event. You're also getting an additional 4 UTAs, unpaid, excused, or STA, also to be used within the first 12 months after the birth event. And for these STAs, they can be outside of the 90-day window within the first 12 months of birth. So typically, if you're requesting an STA, you have to make that drill date up within 90 days of the originally scheduled training. But because of the circumstances that it's because you had a baby, you can make it up outside of that 90-day window as long as it's within, as long as the drilling period is within the 365 days after the birth of the child. As far as perinatal loss goes, you're still going to get leave or be excused from drill if you lose the baby prior to full term, or if you have a stillborn baby, or for whatever reason the baby doesn't make it. So for full-timers, if you are AGR, OTOT, FTNGD, and the baby or your gestation made it to greater than 20 weeks, you're just going to get that convalescent leave, 42 days. If you are between 19 weeks and 6 days and 16 weeks, you're going to get 21 days. If you're between 15 weeks, 6 days, and 12 weeks, you're going to get 14 days. And if it's less than 11 weeks, 6 days, you're going to get 7 days of leave. If you are M-Day and gestation is greater than 20 weeks, you'll get 6 UTAs, unpaid, excused, or STA, which is your convalescent leave. If you're 19 weeks, 6 days to 16 weeks, you'll get 4 UTAs, unpaid, excused, or STA. If you're 15 weeks, 6 days to 12 weeks gestation, it's at command discretion, and then less than 11 weeks, 6 days is also command discretion. So hopefully you have a compassionate command team, and if that happens, they're more than understanding, and they're willing to work with you. But I can't say that there's something in place that tells them they have to let you do that. So just beware. As far as schools go while you're pregnant, there is no PME for enlisted soldiers unless it's the Sergeant Major's Academy. So anything like BLC, ALC, SLC, you're not going to be able to go to those while you're pregnant because they require an ACFT, and you cannot get an ACFT waiver for those courses. So you just won't be able to go to those. Officers and E8s going to Sergeant Major Academy are able to get an exemption, so they can still go to PME. And then you're also not required to do PME during that time period. So you can't be like held back from promotion or you can't get negative consequences from not going to PME while you're pregnant. So yeah, you may go within the first 42 days of postpartum with medical clearance, and all of them have to be able to provide lactation accommodations. During pregnancy, you are obviously exempt from like a deployment or things like that, but as far as ONT deferments go, after the birth of the child, so as a parent, you're eligible for a deferment from continuous duty events in excess of one normal duty day for 365 days after the birth of your child. This includes, but is not limited to, deployment or mobilization, CTC rotations, field training, annual training only if it's away from home station and or if overnight stay is required, collective training events away from home station, unit training assemblies that are away from home station, temporary duty, and state active duty. They define a reasonable commuting distance as anything within 50 miles from the soldier's home of record. The duty day should not exceed 8 hours. Flexible IDT options will be offered as an alternative, and the 8-hour day is recommended for AGRs during IDT. So basically, within 365 days of your baby being born, they want one parent with a child at all times. So if you are in a household where there's only one service member and it happens to be you as the birth parent, then you're going to be able to defer those trainings and situations for a year. Now, if you are lactating, aka breastfeeding or pumping, you'll be exempt from CTC rotations, deployments, or any training events where lactation accommodations cannot be provided for 2 years following the conclusion of the pregnancy. You'll need a note from your doctor stating, yes, this person is still breastfeeding, lactating. However, you're going to be excused for 2 years in order to be able to supply your child with breast milk. You are still eligible for field training, but there has to be lactation accommodations. So whether that's bringing a cooler to the field, or your command team has to be willing to work with you on that. And then also, you are able to get up to $1,000 of reimbursement on TDY in order to ship breast milk back home. So if that's something that you're going to be doing, let's say you're, 9 months postpartum and you want to go to school, you're on TDY, and you need to be able to ship home breast milk, you can get up to $1,000 on your DTS voucher for shipping breast milk back home. So that is pretty big. Overall, I think that the Army, specifically the Wisconsin Army National Guard, has done a lot over the last, I don't even know how long, the last few years, to really help women who want to start their family and build their family be able to do that while also growing their career and moving forward with their military career. It's used to be more of you had to choose one or the other, and I think really right now we're in the age of you can do both. So I am very grateful for that. I have no intentions of stopping my career, but I have every intention of growing my family. So it's nice that I can do both of these things simultaneously without having to sacrifice one or the other. Obviously, there's going to be some changes, and I know that it's going to be hard to be away from my baby for a weekend for drill, or a week for a field training in the future, but I'm very grateful that these things are in place to help women who want to do both. So that is kind of a really quick, generalized overview of a lot of the policies and guidelines in place for women. But hopefully this was informational and answered some questions if you had any. If there's anything that I left out and you want to hear more about, please let me know. I'd love to help clear this up and help you feel more informed about pregnancy in the Army. A couple of resources that are available if you really want to dig through all of the regulations and things. We have the Wisconsin Army National Guard Policy Memo 128 for Parenthood, Pregnancy, and Postpartum. There's Army Directive 2022-06. There's Army Regulation 600-20. There's Army Regulation 600-8-10. I think those are the most important ones. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this, and we'll catch you on the next one.